Autocar, we've always been very fond of the Hero Xtreme 160R because it was a nice looking motorcycle, it handled really well, it had good pep in the city and it was priced quite nicely too. The only things we didn't like about it was that it could have done with a little more power and it could have felt a little more special. This updated model promises to address both those issues. First off, this is the Xtreme 160R 4V, which means it gets a 4-valve engine. But there is a lot more to this motor than just the 4 valves. In fact, Hero tells us that everything here is new. Now, of course, you get the new 4-valve head with a single overhead camshaft and you get the new oil cooler. But Hero says even the crankcases are new and the transmission, in fact, all the gear ratios have been revised to suit this new performance. The exhaust looks the same, but the internals have been reworked as well, and they say that this one sounds a little peppier than the old bike. The result of all this work is that this motor now makes 16.9 horsepower, which is a good jump up over the old Xtreme's 15.2, but it's still not the best in the segment, and that crown still belongs to the Apache RTR 160 4V. Nevertheless, in their internal tests, Hero says that this is the fastest bike in its segment from 0 to 60 and even 0 to 100. The revised gearing means that it now accelerates much faster, but the top speed remains more or less what it used to be, which means you should see about 120 to maybe 125 on the speedometer. Those are the changes with the engine. Now, we've spent the day out riding the bike. We haven't had a chance to do many high-speed highway miles, but it seems to hit 100 kilometers now much easier than the old bike. Refinement wise, this is a very smooth motor. There are some mild vibrations right on top, but in general usage, very smooth. Not as smooth as the Bajaj or maybe even the TVS, but those are exceptionally refined engines, and this one is very good too. It has a 5-speed gearbox like before, and the feel of the gearbox is perfectly okay, not the best in the world, not bad either. What is nice though is that this motor is really tractable. You can stick it in 4th gear, be doing 25 kilometers an hour on an incline, open the gas and the bike pulls steadily. That sort of performance will be really nice in the city. The old Xtreme was good in the city up to about 60 to 70 kph. This one retains that character, but it just expands the performance envelope, and for a city motorcycle, that's very nice. As for the chassis, you've probably noticed that big golden fork. It's only available on the top model. It's a KYB fork, 37mm thick, and it really adds to the look of the bike. Now, whether this new UST fork has brought an improvement in handling over the telescopic fork, I can't really tell you because we haven't had a chance to ride them back to back. Technically, it should bring more stability to the front end, and that will give the rider better feel. However, what Hero has done here is that they've actually softened the suspension a little bit at both ends. And when I rode this bike, I noticed that it just does feel a little softer than the old one. In terms of handling, that has had a small compromise. The bike is willing to scrape its foot pegs a little easier, but this is not real world stuff. In the real world, the ride quality is probably better than the old bike, and that wasn't bad in the first place. Comfort has also improved thanks to these new seats. They're very thick and well cushioned. If you want a single seat, you can buy that as an accessory, and it's available as standard on the lower 2 models. What I also like about the new 4V is that Hero has done some good work with the styling. The shape of the tank has been reprofiled slightly, it slopes downward more, gives it a more sporty stance, and the whole bike looks quite large for a 160, and that is a nice thing. The seating position matches that character as well. It's spacious, large riders will fit on it well, but the seat height isn't very tall, so shorter riders will be comfortable as well. From the rider's point of view, you now have new switchgear. This just looks and feels better than the old stuff. I still don't think this is the best switchgear in the segment, but it is a big leap up from the old Xtreme. Overall, there are now 3 versions available, and Hero's done something interesting with how they've spec'd these models. Now, on the top model, you will get that UST fork, which really does add to the style, but you won't get the connected features that are available only in the mid-spec connected model, which comes with an eSIM. That opens up the possibilities to things like geofencing and a whole lot more. On this bike, the Bluetooth connectivity is a lot more simple. It just gives you call and SMS alerts. Whether that's a problem for you, well, that's something for you to decide. But unfortunately, you do have to decide whether you want the upside-down fork or the connectivity. Pricing-wise, this top-spec model is a little more expensive than the top-spec Pulsar N160 and the top-spec RTR 160. It does have the USD fork, but it doesn't have the dual channel ABS that you'd get on the Pulsar. So again, there is a bit of a give and take here. But overall, the bike is now nicer to ride, and I think it's nicer to look at as well. I'm a fan of these extroverted colors, but if you don't like them, there are some more muted colors available as well. Overall, with all these updates, the Xtreme seems to have clawed itself back up towards the top of the segment. But whether this is the best of the segment, well, that's something we're going to have to find out when we do a full comparison review.